Hey guys, Steve from Singing Simplified. So I built a home vocal booth, a home recording booth. So I thought you'd be curious how I did it and why. Well, first of all, one of the biggest complaints I get from students, voice students that is that they feel uncomfortable practicing singing because someone is in the house. And you feel very inhibited trying to practice your singing when someone is listening, right? I'm the same way. I live in an apartment building. I have an end unit. I did that on purpose. That's a typical musician's choice. But I do have a downstairs neighbor, and because of COVID, they are now home all day, every day. So I can't even let go and sing it out during the day without bothering the neighbors. There's two types of vocal booths. Most of them are for sound dampening or deadening the sound, which gives you a better quality recording when you record, whatever you're recording at home. I wanted something that does that, but also does soundproofing. It's not soundproof, meaning it's not perfect, but I wanted to be able to have a little booth that I go into that I can sing out and make some noise and not feel inhibitions. I made a little video. I took photos along the way. I talked through how I did it, so enjoy. Also, stick around to the end of the video because I will do a test to show you how well it did, because when I started building this thing and throughout the build, I really didn't know how well it was going to do. So, all right, let's watch. Well, first off, I should tell you that my build cost almost $1,000, okay? That sounds like a crazy amount of money, but when you start looking online for what's available, this one at Acoustical Solutions with tax, it's $1,500. It's the cheapest option I've found, and even this one has an opening in the back where you see that fan is clipped. That whole area up top is open, so there's going to be some bleed as far as the volume is concerned, of course, right there. And for real soundproofing, there's a company called whisperroom.com. They make the real deal stuff. And just to give you an idea what real soundproofing costs, you can see this one is $5,500 before tax. And this, I don't think this even has the double walls. But just wanted to give you an idea. That's why $1,000 isn't that crazy for my build. All right, well, step one was, of course, making a sketch and thinking out the measurements and all that kind of stuff and what materials I'll need. And one of the big challenges was I needed to build this thing without any power tools at all. I had to build it quietly because I live in an apartment building. So, of course, I did some research, and a lot of people on YouTube, in fact, most people are building their vocal booths using PVC pipe as the frame, and I decided to go with that. Now, they tend to just kind of hang moving blankets around the frame and use that as a sound deadening booth. But again, I wanted to do some soundproofing, so I had to go further than just that. For the walls, I decided to go with this insulation sheathing. It's basically just a heavy-duty styrofoam material. I went with this because it's light and I knew I could use tape as opposed to having to use nails. It was also really important to me that I had a window because I wanted to be able to not feel like I'm in a box, basically, have some light in there. And I also wanted to be able to see the computer screen so when I'm recording, I can control the software from inside the booth. So I went with this plexiglass 1/4 inch because it's not as heavy as glass. I could still use heavy-duty tape and it would do a decent job of soundproofing. And of course I had to buy a lot of tape, heavy-duty tape. This is not duct tape, this is Gorilla Tape. Often people call duct tape. Well, what animal is stronger than a duck? That's right, it's a gorilla. So they make the strongest type of duct tape. The stuff is awesome. That was the main way I was able to put together this vocal booth. All right, so it was time to put together the first wall, and I decided to start with the wall with the window in it because I can't cut plexiglass. So I had to, measure everything around that piece of plexiglass. So I started with the one wall. As you can see here, I took the Gorilla Tape and I taped the window to the frame of the PVC pipe along with the styrofoam insulation. Then I measured and cut the rest of the frame with the PVC pipes. As you can see, I put a little stool in there. I sat in there with my guitar. I wanted to make sure it was big enough for me to play guitar in there too. That's one thing not everybody might think about, how long a guitar is, and when you sit down with it, it takes up a lot of space. So I definitely wanted to consider that in the measurements. Quick tip, by the way, if you decide to go with PVC piping and you find you have to cut it to size, get one of these. They are awesome and will save you a lot of time. All right, as you can see here, I finished taping all the styrofoam to all the walls except the ceiling, and I didn't use styrofoam for the door. You'll see more about that coming up. Next thing I did was take a hot glue gun and I glued some carpet padding all the way around the booth. It really didn't do anything for soundproofing at all, but I wanted to give it an upholstered feel for when I put the moving blankets on top of that, which you will see. All right, next I wrapped the booth with these moving blankets that I got at Home Depot. I used hot glue to hold them in place. And by the way, if you're curious, this is the glue gun I used. Next, I had to figure out how I was going to do a door on this vocal booth. So I went to this website, Vocal Booth to Go, and they make these great heavy-duty sound absorption blankets, and this is the one I got. Next, I needed a way to hold that heavy, it's like 10 or 12 pounds, that heavy-duty blanket onto the frame. So I got these hooks, then I stuck them on the PVC frame itself upside down, and I pulled this heavy blanket over and I hooked it on those hooks to keep it from falling to the ground, of course. So after I got the door hung, this heavy-duty blanket, then I used another several pieces of the styrofoam insulation and I taped all of that to the roof of this PVC frame. Now I needed some material that would do some soundproofing, so I bought 2 boxes of this stuff and I hot glued it to every inch of this booth with the exception of the window, of course. And I did 2 layers of that gym flooring, not just one. Okay, now it's starting to look like something. I decided to get some gray felt for the top half because I didn't like that blue moving blanket. And you can see on the inside, I hung heavy-duty Sherpa blankets, they're called, on the interior, as you'll see here. I just used the old Gorilla Tape and I taped those to the PVC pipe around the top for sound deadening and a little extra soundproofing. If you're curious, these are the blankets I hung on the inside of the booth. All right, next step is very important. That is getting some air inside that booth. Now, I wasn't going to suffocate in there because it's not airtight, of course, but it gets really hot in those little booths, so you got to figure out a way to get some air in there. So I found this really cool duct fan on Amazon, and I ran that ducting into the bottom corner of it, and I got a little switch that you can vary the speed, and I can turn it on and off from inside the booth. Now it was time to finish off the interior. I put the gray felt on the front wall underneath that plexiglass window. I also actually bought a second piece of plexiglass, 1/8 inch, and taped that on the inside, so I had double plexiglass. I also found some other foam that I put up, as you can see, and I put the microphone with an iPad holder and a little shelf there so I can put my computer keyboard on there so I can control my software from the booth. And finally, you can see this is the entrance. That's the heavy-duty blanket that you saw me hang earlier. What I did was put Velcro on that and also on the frame of the booth as well. You can see here, and I'm able to Velcro it shut, pull it shut when I go inside. And here she is, all finished up. I'm quite proud of it. It's not an eyesore either. Pretty cool. I also won an award, as you can see. Here's another angle, one side of it. Here's the interior, all kind of finished up, looking pretty. You can see I can see my computer screen from that window. Okay, here we are. I'm outside the booth. I'm going to give you a little, test outside to inside, and you can hear the volume difference. So this is me making a lot of noise, yelling right outside the booth. All right, I'm going to go inside. So now I'm yelling inside the booth here. I hope you can hear me. I'm sure you can, but hopefully you can't hear me too well because that's the idea of this booth. All right, there you go. So as you can see, it's not soundproof. Soundproofing is way difficult, but at least you can hear there's a definite decibel level drop when I'm in the booth. And that's the idea because now nobody can hear me outside of the apartment. That's the idea. Of course you could hear me outside of the booth, but the downstairs neighbors, they'd have to work pretty hard to hear me. So that was the main goal. So thanks again for watching. Please like, please subscribe. I have almost 50,000 students on Udemy now, which is amazing. Thank you to all my Udemy students, but don't have a lot of followers on YouTube, so I want to build that up a bit so I can, share more of these videos with you. So thanks again. Have a good one.